Ever feel like you're just passively soaking up information? Or maybe that learning something new just sort of bleeds into every single hour of your day.
Yeah, that feeling of just being overwhelmed or not really engaging.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to dig into two pretty distinct approaches to how knowledge actually gets transferred. This is based on some really interesting analysis we've looked at.
We're comparing the tradition, teacher to student education.
The one we all know.
And this newer idea called Book-to-Brain Learnography.
And the source we're diving into today is an analysis called Comparative Analysis, Teacher to Student Education versus Book-to-Brain Learnography. It's by Shiva Narayan Taxshila Page.
And it really lays out the principles, the roles, strengths, weaknesses of both.
So our mission here is basically to unpack these two models. We want to get to grips with their core differences and, what they might mean for learning effectively.
Definitely. And it's not really about picking a winner.
No, not at all. It's about understanding the nuances, the pros and cons of each way.
It really makes you think about the underlying assumptions, doesn't it? One focuses on the guide, the teacher.
Right.
And the other, much more on the direct engagement with the material itself.
Yeah.
And the learner's role. Is it active or more passive?
Okay, so let's kick off with the familiar one. Teacher to student education. I mean, this has been the bedrock of schooling for, well, basically forever, right?
Pretty much, yeah. The fundamental idea is the teacher is the primary source, the conveyor of knowledge.
They lead the lessons, explain the complicated bits.
Break it down for you.
Answer questions, hopefully.
Exactly. And the analysis really highlights its key features. It's very teacher-centric.
Meaning the teacher decides the pace.
The pace, the content, the structure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's that crucial part, the explanation, the guidance. Teachers use their expertise.
To simplify things.
Right. But it also involves student engagement. Classroom discussions, group projects, sometimes hands-on stuff.
Okay. And of course, homework.
Homework.
Yeah.
And assessments. They're meant to reinforce learning outside of school and evaluate how you're doing.
Yeah, looking back, that sounds spot on for my school days. Now, the analysis does point out some real strengths to this traditional way.
Like what?
Well, personalized support. A good teacher can adapt, right, to different learning styles, give someone extra help if they need it.
That's a huge plus, that human element.
And the structured environment. For a lot of people, that helps with focus and motivation, having that set time and place.
Sure. And the interaction piece, asking questions in real time, getting immediate feedback, those discussions.
Yeah, those can be really valuable for deeper understanding.
Definitely strong points.
Yeah.
A teacher's ability to, read the room and adjust is something special.
But it's not perfect. The analysis also talks about limitations.
Right. Like the dependence on the teacher.
How so?
Well, the whole thing kind of hinges on how good that teacher is, doesn't it? Their skills, their energy.
True. A great teacher makes a huge difference, but a less effective one.
Exactly. And there's the risk of passive learning, too.
Yeah.
Students just sort of sitting back and receiving information.
Without really wrestling with it themselves. Yeah, I can see that.
And then there's the homework overload issue.
Oh, tell me about it.
It can lead to serious stress, burnout.
Mm.
It's a common complaint.
Definitely remember feeling swamped sometimes. Okay, so let's switch gears. This book-to-brain learnography sounds different, more modern.
It's presented as a pretty revolutionary shift, yeah.
Yeah.
The analysis calls it a game changer.
How does it change the game?
It moves away from the teacher being the main source and focuses on a direct connection between the student and the learning materials.
Hence book-to-brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly based on neuroscience principles, how our brains actually learn best.
Interesting. So less teacher-led.
Much more student-centric. The idea is students take the lead. They actively construct their own knowledge from the resources.
How does that work in practice?
A key concept is something called brain page development.
Brain page?
Yeah, think of it like creating your own mental map or representation of the information, really internalizing it, connecting ideas actively, not just reading.
So you're actively pulling the knowledge out of the book.
Right. Instead of just having it pushed at you. It aims for self-directed learning and, crucially, less homework because the learning happens in school.
Less homework sounds good. What else?
Well, there's this specific model mentioned, the one-day, one-book model.
One day, one book. What's that about?
Deep focus. Instead of juggling multiple subjects, students dive deep into a single book or topic for the day. The idea is much better understanding and retention.
That is different. Usually it's like 45 minutes of this, an hour of that.
Exactly. This approach is about depth over breadth in a single session. Research apparently suggests it helps long-term memory.
Okay, what else characterizes learnography?
The analysis mentions miniature schools.
Miniature schools. Inside the classroom.
Sort of. Classrooms are divided into small teams, like 7 students. And each team has model learners who help guide their peers.
Ah, so peer-to-peer learning is built in.
Very much so. The model learners help explain things from the transfer book they're working on. Then there's brain page testing.
Testing the mental maps.
Basically, yeah. Students present or explain their brain pages, and the teacher provides feedback. It helps personalize the learning, see where the gaps are.
So the teacher isn't gone, their role just changes, more like a facilitator or coach.
Precisely. Less lecturing, more guiding, inviting feedback. These small teams also allow for immediate help, clarifying things with peers.
Got it. So what are the claimed strengths of this approach?
Well, the big one is active learning. Because students are doing the constructing, it's meant to build critical thinking and a much deeper understanding.
Makes sense if you have to build the map yourself.
You have to understand the territory, right?
Yeah.
Then there's student empowerment, fostering independence, self-motivation.
Because they're in the driving seat.
Exactly. And the reduced homework aspect is obviously a big plus for student well-being. Learning happens during school hours, mostly.
And efficiency. You mentioned neuroscience.
Right. Claim is that it aligns better with how our brains naturally process information, potentially making learning more efficient.
Yeah.
Optimizing those pathways.
Okay, those are compelling benefits. But surely there are downsides, challenges.
Oh, definitely. The analysis points out potential hurdles. For one, adaptation.
Students struggling to switch.
Yeah, if you're used to being told exactly what to do and when, this self-directed style could be, well, a bit jarring initially.
I can imagine. What else?
The reduced emphasis on traditional lectures. Some students might actually miss that direct instruction format, even if the teacher is still there to support.
Might feel less guided at first.
Perhaps. And a really big one is resource dependence.
Meaning you need the right books.
Exactly. The success hinges on having high-quality, suitable learning materials, these transfer books. They need to be designed in a way that supports independent study and this brain page writing process.
Right. Can't just hand over any textbook and say, go.
Not effectively, no. The materials need careful curation and design.
Okay, so thinking bigger picture. The analysis connects this shift towards learnography to current issues in education.
Yeah, it suggests it's partly a response to things we've already touched on, like teacher burnout.
Which is a huge problem.
Huge. And student passivity, that feeling of just going through the motions. And of course, the homework issue. Learnography is framed as a potential way to address these things.
By fundamentally changing how learning happens and where it happens.
Precisely. The why now question is interesting. The analysis argues learnography is maybe better suited for the 21st century.
How so?
Well, it prepares students for lifelong learning. That skill of being self-reliant, able to learn on your own, is vital today.
Absolutely. Information changes so fast.
And the potential reduction in stress for both students and teachers by confining most learning to school hours. That's significant for mental health and well-being.
And you mentioned the cognitive science angle again.
Right. Aligning with how the brain works could just be a smarter way to learn, leading to better absorption and retention.
But making the switch, it sounds like a massive undertaking. What are the roadblocks?
Big ones. The analysis highlights implementation challenges. First off, just transitioning the system.
Resistance to change.
You bet. From educators, students, even parents who are comfortable with the traditional way, is what everyone knows.
Understandable.
Then there are huge training requirements. Not just retraining teachers for this facilitator role.
But the students, too.
Yes. Training students to be effective classroom operators, as the source puts it. How to create brain pages, how to solve tasks independently, how to work in those miniature schools.
And even some pre-training.
Yeah, apparently some initial training in brain-based learning principles is needed so students understand why they're learning this way.
Wow. That's a lot. And the books again.
And the books. Designing or curating enough of those high-quality source books or transfer books, specifically for brain page writing, is a major logistical challenge.
It really sounds like a complete system overhaul, not just tweaking the edges.
It does. A fundamental rethink.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you listening right now. We've explored these two quite different models, the traditional teacher-led classroom and this book-to-brain learnography.
Two philosophies, really.
Yeah, and I'm curious, thinking about your own experiences, which aspects of each model kind of resonate with you? Did you thrive in that structured, guided setting?
Or do you find you learn best when you're more in control, exploring on your own terms?
I know for me, there were definitely classes where I could just, take notes dutifully without the information really sinking in. Is that the kind of passivity the analysis was talking about?
Could be that surface level engagement.
Yeah.
And connecting this to your life now,
Mm.
maybe outside formal education, understanding these principles can be really useful.
How so?
Well, whether you're learning a new skill for work, trying to get your head around a complex topic, or just pursuing a hobby,
Right.
knowing the strengths of guided instruction versus independent active exploration,
Yeah.
it can help you tailor your own approach, right?
Hmm.
Maybe you need some initial structure,
Right.
then you dive deep yourself.
Find that synergy. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so quick recap. We've contrasted the traditional model, teacher as the main guide.
With learnography,
Mm.
which is student-driven, using brain-based ideas, aiming for deeper, more active learning.
Less passive reception, more active construction.
Exactly. And this whole comparison raises a pretty big question, I think, for you to mull over.
Okay, OSA.
In today's world, just saturated with information,
Yeah.
how do we actually best leverage our natural learning processes? How do we get that deep understanding and knowledge that really lasts?
Whether that's through structured guidance, like a great teacher or mentor.
Or through empowered self-discovery, really taking the reins yourself?
Hmm.
How do we find that balance for truly effective learning?
That is a great question to think about. So if this deep dive sparked your interest, we really encourage you to reflect on your own learning style, your own journey.
Maybe dig a bit deeper into some of these concepts. Brain-based learning, self-directed education.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. And if you want to explore the specific approach we discussed, the analysis was by Shiva Narayan Taxshila Page. They apparently have more resources on system learnography and brain page theory.
Worth checking out if this resonated.
Definitely something to ponder. How do we learn best, truly?